It's Tone Chase Day, not Grudge Match Day, but if you like to embrace the chase, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Jam Shed and the inaugural launch of a new episodic series called Tone Chase. Now, if you're asking yourself, I thought it was called Grudge Match, you'd be right, but what we've been doing historically here is chasing tone, not looking at two things and going this one versus this one as much as exploring what they bring to the table. And we did that under one rule, that there are no rules, and that's exactly what we're going to continue to do. It's still going to be the thoughts that come into this brain and the gear that comes into the Jam Shed, and I'm going to bring it to you so that we can explore and be curious and chase tone. So with that, let's take a look at a new segment I'm calling the Tone Chase Rig Rundown. And as you can see, all the gear that we're going to be exploring with today is right here in front of you. And I'm going to highlight a couple pieces of it. I wanted you to see that we have the 2-channel triple rectifier. I have the settings that I have that on there for those of you that would be curious, that are nerdy like I am, and you're going, well, what are the settings of the amp that you have dialed in for today? We'll be using the Badder Monkey to help the front end of the amplifier to deal with some of the low end that the triple rectifiers, or any rectifier for that matter, is known for. It calms it down and even gives it a little bit more modern take. And the two speakers that we'll be using and shooting out a little bit here and tone chasing with today are the Eminence Karnivore and the Celestion Creamback G12M. They are very similar in specs, but wildly different in sound. So as you can see, both 60 watts, both 16 ohm versions. You have 98 dB versus 97 dB on the Creamback. Both have paper comb, both 1 3/4 inch voice coil. Now here's where we're going to see just a little bit of difference, which is very interesting when we start to look at the tonal palette of both of these speakers. You have the Karnivore coming in at 70 hertz to 5.2 kilohertz, and then you have the Creamback at 75 hertz to 5 kilohertz. Now, I think you will hear that a little bit, so I'll be curious in the comments if you all picked up on that nuance. A little more low end out of the Karnivore and a little more top end out of the Karnivore. But then when we look at their tonal palettes, it's fascinating because you have the Karnivore, more of a tight, aggressive, forward sounding speaker, where the Creamback is warm and chewy and balanced. And in the last video I did with the Creamback, I described the chewy as something that happens that's unique in the low end of the speaker, the resonance of the low end in the speaker. It just seems to have this unique balance of somewhere between becoming a little more loose in the low end, but in the most controlled way. And that's the best way I can articulate it. It's really pleasing. It gives the speaker a unique sound. Now, one of the things I want to talk about briefly before we make a pivot to our next segment, which is I chose the Karnivore to explore alongside of the Creamback because when I heard it in the last video, I was like, wow, this really does sound similar to the Karnivore, at least to my ears in this moment. So I thought, that's what I want to explore here today. How close does the G12M sound to the Karnivore? Are they similar? Are they just wildly different? I know my ears play tricks on me all the time. I think I have something in my mind, and then I put it to the test, and I'm like, what? That was different than what I anticipated. The only speaker I think I can ever really pick out well in my own arsenal is the Vintage 30. I usually can tell where that is. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go back and look. And so that's an interesting thing now that I'm feeling the same way about the Karnivore. I feel like I can hear what that sounds like and hear the similarities, but we're going to put that to the test a bit today. So let's transition and talk a little bit about what we're going to do here. Let's take a look at what's on the test rig. As you could see earlier, it's the Badder Monkey, and I want to talk a little bit about how I'm going to set this up. What I'm going to do is we'll A/B the two speakers. I already have the Badder Monkey set so it can support, as I had already said, the triple rectifier, making it sound a little more modern and dealing with the low end. So we're not going to do the A/B. I know that I have the Tube Screamer here on deck, but we will be using the little switcher here that you see that switches between the speakers. Right now it's actually set to the Creamback. We're going to move that to the Karnivore because that's what we're going to start with. So we'll do a quick A/B test. I'll play a little riff. I'll go back and forth between the speakers a couple of times, maybe noodle a little bit, and I'll come back and give my thoughts. And then following that, we'll hear this thing in a full mix, both speakers in the full mix, and then the isolated guitar tracks. I'll come back, give my final thoughts, and then we will land the plane. So let me go grab a guitar and we'll be right back. The axe of choice for our tone chase today is my 2006 Dean Evo. It has a Gibson Burstbucker 3 here loaded in the bridge position, which is exactly where we'll stay for all the fun we're about to have on this tone chase. Now, let's talk real quick about how I'm going to launch into this thing. We will start with the Karnivore. I'll play a riff or two. jump over to the Creamback and play a riff or two there. With that being said, let's take a listen. Here we go. Well, all right, there you have it. I think these speakers sound fantastic, and in my mind, I felt like these speakers were going to sound a lot closer. While I feel like they're closer, like distant cousins, it is interesting how they are wildly different, specifically what they do in the mid-range and the top end. Obviously, the Karnivore is certainly way more forward than the Creamback, and I like where the Creamback lays back, and I think I said this in the last video, it sits back in the spots where the other speaker seems to shine a lot. So I'll be curious to see how, in the context of a full mix, what the blend sounds like. And I think there will be something to be really said when it comes down to pairings. And I've said this before in videos, the pairings definitely make all the difference. I used to be just, let's grab a speaker that I think sounds great. I'll double track it, I'll quad track it, a couple different performances in those quad trackings, and I'll move along. But there's something special about thinking about chasing the pairings, which is exactly what we're doing here. And I think anytime you can pair some speakers together that really nestle well with each other, where one complements the other, especially if you're blending. Now here, I'll pan them hard right and hard left, outside of when you're hearing the singular speaker. But I think when you start to do work, if you're doing studio stuff or if you're writing your own music, man, pairings is just where it seems to be. Now, with all that being said, I'll be curious to see what we get out of the full mix and the isolated guitars. So let's hear how that sounds. Here we go. Again, I'm always blown away by what happens when you get to hear a speaker or a set of pedals in the context of a mix. You can hear the nuance, the changes and the shifts, and it's evident, but sometimes it's not as great as we think it is. Now, in this instance, it was fascinating to hear the two of these. And for one moment, I'm like, oh, I like this sound in this moment, a little more pleasing to my ears. But But then I hear it again and I'm like, well, maybe not. Maybe I like the other one. And I'm very curious to see where you all landed with which one you like the most. And then when you get to the isolated guitar tracks, it's like the veil has been lifted. So it is fascinating about what sonically happens in the context of a full mix. The nuance is not as much. It exists, right? And honestly, again, I've said this and I'm not trying to labor this, but even just changing a mic position can wildly shift how things can sound. And so I don't spend a lot of time when doing this thinking about, I want them to sound alike. I just pick a tone I'm hearing in that moment that I'm enjoying and I go with it. And when I bring these here for you all, I leave it there, and it's always fascinating to see that I'm not dialing in the same tone per se, as much as I get to hear this nuance about what my ears are telling me. And so I'm learning a couple of things here. One, I can never trust my ears nor my brain to say I have this tone locked. It's really, again, about exploring what's going to work. And sometimes it's in that moment, sometimes something magical happens. And I think that's what the blend does. I love what these speakers sound like together. And again, it goes back to the pairing. So I am deeply interested to hear from you all what you thought. And I'm thankful that you all stayed around for this journey. Hey, we hit 250 subs. We might be a little higher than that when this drops in the next couple of days, but I'm thankful for every one of you that have been along for this journey. We have more to come, and I'm excited for all that we're gonna do. And with that, we will land the plane, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.